today is we're going to use the Astoria Foliage transfer on the desk, and then I'm going to do a little bit of glazing over it, and then we are going to use the IOD inks around the edges for some shadowing. The first two sheets are the top of the design. The second two are the bottom two sheets. So let's line that up and see what we can fit on there. Now this is sealed, guys. So it's always best to put your sealer on before your transfer. So I am going to just line it up. No. Okay, that barely touched, so I was okay. I want it right to the edge. Ideally, I'd like it straight. You put your stick kind of behind the part that is not rubbed off, and you try to get a little bit of air under there. And as you push the air through, there's a little bubble in there, and that pushes your transfer off. It helps it release. Now you do need to make sure you're still rubbing it with the stick. And you'll see that I'll go back and make sure it's all burnished in. But if you ever feel like you're pushing really hard on a spot, go back and see if you can catch an air bubble in there, and it will help get the transfer off of the front sheet. Then you're going to take your sheet and rub. These parts right here are going to go right into what I've already got. So it should line up and kind of fit in like a puzzle. Oops, and then it's always on me to keep it straight. I have problems with that sometimes. It's a challenge. And I think I've got it. All right. You're basically putting the top on a daisy here and finishing out a couple of flowers. Here's what I'm doing. That is going there. I'm putting the top on the daisy, and I'm putting a flower, and I'm going to go for overlapping more than I'm going to go for space. Okay, how cool is that? Here's one of our ink pads, and the cover just comes off. It's going to be my custom gray. And I am just, this is definitely a lot darker than the gray that we have. So I've basically just filled my pad. I'm going to let that soak in a little bit. I got my ink pad. This is kind of like a blue-gray. See, it just is going to look different on, depending on what you're doing. Can you see the difference there? Can you see that go on? Important if you're going to be glazing to have your piece sealed first, because if you don't, and especially if you're using chalk paint, what happens is your glaze really penetrates your paint, and you get it soaks in, it gets dark, you can't move your glaze around. And part of the best effect of using glaze is to be able to get it kind of just where you want it, light in some places and darker in others. And so you need to be able to control how much is staying on your piece. And so that's why sealing first is really important. Let's just put it on here. Now, I want this in the little crevices, and the high points, I'm gonna go back with the ink that I mixed up and put on the high points. So this I wanna get right down into the creases. It's important with glazes to do sections. Like, I don't wanna cover my whole piece and then, let's get this off. I don't wanna cover my whole piece and then go back to wipe it off, because when you do that, it dries really quickly. All right, so I'm just wiping off. Now see, that's pretty much already dry, but if you've got pieces that you don't like, here's the wet cloth. If I've created stripes or I have too much, I can come back with the wet cloth instead of the dry one and wipe a little bit more off. Okay, so that just gives it changes the color a little bit, and it gives it a little bit more depth. Let's paint it on. I know I'm wiping most of this off, so I really want to concentrate on getting it into anything that is like indented. All right, here we go. I'm going to use the dry cloth. And I'm just, right now, we're going to just wipe off all the extra. Now your strokes are going to show, so sometimes you got to think about what direction you're going in. I usually don't care, because if I've painted in texture, my brush strokes underneath have gone every which way. Already dry, so we're going to go in. I'm going to go in with my wet cloth. I'm still using the same one. And I am just going to wipe off a lot of what's on the top, just so I'm leaving. I think I need a new one. I've used that one a lot. So what I'm trying to do is just leave it into the edges and into the crevices. I can go back and add more when this dries if I feel like I took off too much. This is 0, 0, 0, 0, 100, whatever, 0 steel wool, synthetic. And it'll take any like little bits off that I have sticking up that didn't adhere, because I definitely do not want any of this underneath. I'm going to put it on the dry cloth. Okay, now I'm going to just take the wet cloth, which is really wrung out, and lighten up some of the areas where I can see. I'm really barely touching this. This side versus that side. It kind of just looks antiqued, and it is picking up in here are all of my brush strokes.